Unless otherwise indicated, all the following scripture quotations are taken from the Holy Bible, New Living Translation, with copyright by Tyndale House Foundation, used by permission of Tyndale House Publishers, all rights reserved.
Hi, I'm P.S I. Welcome to my channel, and this is a mini applause for you. Why do you get a mini applause? Because you're quite simply amazing, and because you made it through yesterday, today, and since I believe you're going to make it through tomorrow, why don't you just hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be here when I post another video. Okie dokie, so today we're going to be talking about Encanto again. As I said, it's like my favorite movie right now, okay? So yeah, and we are also going to interestingly be talking about Wandavision. And so I'm just popping a little spoiler alert in here for you. If you have not seen Encanto or Wandavision, I highly suggest that you go and check those two out before listening to this, because I really don't want to spoil it for you. Both of them are so incredibly well written and so extremely enjoyable that I really don't want to spoil it for you. But in case you have, or you just really want to know what's going on, let's get into it. So, what do Encanto and Wandavision have in common? Well, let's be quite frank. We spoke, I think it was like 2 days ago, about Abuela and her dealing with her grief. If you've watched Wandavision, you know exactly what I'm talking about right here. So, the whole thing that I thought is that Encanto is kind of like the animated version of what happened with Wandavision, and there's potential for the whole Encanto, the whole entire thing, to just be something that's going on in Abuela's mind, because this is how she's coping with her grief. She basically created this whole story, created the whole world of Encanto only in her mind, because this is how she's trying to process her grief. And I'm speculating that Mirabel is potentially then her conscience, which keeps trying to get her to notice that she's not coping with the grief, and that's why all these cracks are forming in the Encanto. Okay, so when thinking about this, I started trying to look for like similarities and things between Encanto and between Wandavision, right? And so I immediately discovered that both Encanto and Wandavision are made by Disney, which I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to think about maybe the writers were involved in a similar project, because I was trying to see whether or not they could have been influenced to think about the characters and the storyline in this way, right? Based on them working together or working on a project in the past, something like that, right? So when I was looking for this connection, I thought first, okay, maybe it's because the one was written and influenced by the other, but Encanto was actually in the works in accordance with what Lin-Manuel Miranda has said for like 5 years, and Wandavision they only really started working on in 2019. But bear in mind that Wandavision is based on a event in the comics from like the Avengers and Wanda Maximoff and Vision. And I'm not too familiar with all of the comics, so don't come at me for that, but that is an event that takes place in the comics that sort of ties in with what's happening in Wandavision. And so that means that there's like pre-existing source material for them to base something off of. And that was like, oh, it's a bit of a letdown, so that's not really a tie that's keeping Wandavision and Encanto like in the same kind of vein, right? But then I started to look at the writers, and I tried to see whether or not the writers were working on the same projects at the same time, or to see if there was any correlation between them. And I found out that one of the writers, Charise Castro Smith, actually worked on a series called The Haunting of Hill House, I believe. It's a series from 2018. So let me read you the synopsis from the storyline from IMDb. It says, explores a group of siblings who as children grew up in what would go on to become the most famous haunted house in the country. Now adults and forced back together in the face of tragedy, the family must finally confront the ghosts of their past, some of which still lurk in their minds, while others may actually be stalking the shadows of Hill House. Right? So I thought, okay, this is kind of interesting that she worked on the story. I couldn't see a correlation between that and Encanto at first. But then right under that, under the tab trivia for The Haunting of Hill House, it says, did you know the Crane children represent the 5 stages of grief? Denial being Stephen, anger being Shirley, bargaining being Theo, depression being Luke, and acceptance being Neil. And so I was like, oh dang, she worked on that story, and it's possible that her working on the story influenced the story of Encanto from way back when. So I was like, ooh, this is top notch. And then I thought to myself, okay, what kind of similarities can we find between Abuela and Wanda that can kind of sort of reaffirm that Encanto could possibly just be taking place in Abuela's mind, right? And so I had to watch the whole of Wandavision series. It was crazy, but I watched all of it in one day. It's not that long actually, but it is so enjoyable, and I promise you, you've got to check it out. So here are some similarities between Wanda Maximoff and how she was processing the death of Vision and Abuela, right? They both had significant trauma within a short space of time. They both show signs of like denial of how serious the depth of their grief is, you know, like that kind of, I'm fine, everything's fine, don't worry, we got this all sorted. Meanwhile, underneath the surface, as Louisa says, there's this pressure that's building because they're not actually dealing with it, they're just bottling, and they've convinced themselves they've dealt with it, right? And then anything that links her to the actual reality must either be removed or destroyed. This happens in WandaVision frequently, and also in Encanto, right? Anything that sort of ruins her perception of everything is fine, everything is perfect, that person is shoved away, that thing is pushed away. I don't want to deal with that, I don't want to talk about that, and I'm not acknowledging that. So yeah, this is so interesting, right? And then it's possible that Abuela can't move on from her current reality, like Wanda as well, because if she does, she will lose the person that she loves. In WandaVision, Wanda is Vision and the family that she's made with him are stuck in this little town of Westview that she has made, and they cannot leave because it's not real. It's not real at all. So there's potential that Abuela and the whole family is stuck in the Encanto, stuck in this environment because it's not real. And if she tries to leave from that, she has to accept that she's gonna lose everything and possibly everyone that she loves. She loves the family that she has. She loves that they've got these gifts, and she loves that they can help their community. And so she'll be facing this huge amount of grief again if she has to make the choice to leave that Encanto behind or put it aside. And so I thought this was like so crazy. And another thing is that like the medical house and the candle, right? These are the things that she's gonna have to leave behind, right? But the thing that was quite interesting for me was it's possible that Abuela's family are actually, like in WandaVision, the people of the town are captives of Wanda's sort of delusion or of the environment that she's made. And it's possible that all of Abuela's family are captives of the Encanto as well. This freaking blew my mind when I was thinking about it. So yeah, just let me know what you think in the comments, because this is just chef's kiss. I said French kiss in one of the videos and I got it right now. Anyway, okay. So yeah, and in WandaVision, in her grief, Wanda actually disregards one of Vision's choices, right? Which is he doesn't want to be recreated. He doesn't want to be used as a weapon. So in a sense, in Encanto, because of her grief as well, Abuela starts to abuse people's powers and starts to abuse her family in a sense, by expecting them always to be perfect, always to be ready to help at the expense of their own selves and their own personal issues, defying Abuelo Pedro's sacrifice, which is for the family. He sacrificed so they could be free, so that they could have opportunities and that they wouldn't be stuck somewhere. And yet now it seems like Encanto is actually a much darker place than what we initially thought, and people could be captives of Abuela's sense of perfection and of being a part of this Encanto. I mean, why doesn't anyone leave? Why don't people want to leave, especially not if they're happy? There's no reason why moving away has to mean I hate my family. And that kind of seems to be what's happening in this sense. So this was interesting to consider. Okay, so yeah, like I said, there's a possibility that Encanto is all in Abuela's mind, and that Mirabel is actually playing sort of like a conscience to Abuela. And yeah, so the house breaking symbolizes her need to deal with the emotions and finally accepting her grief and moving on. And then the family opening up to Mirabel and the cracks healing are a sign that the family is finally healing together from the trauma, and that the acknowledgement of the grief is actually uniting them. their pain is not so strong to drive them apart. It actually can unite them and heal everything, right? Now notice at the end of the film, they don't have their powers as they rebuild, right? They actually have no indication that their powers are coming back at all. So when they have this final moment of the townspeople helping to build the home and everybody finally working together, acknowledging sometimes people struggle. Perfection is not a good standard to set for themselves or for anybody else. And they've got this whole montage in the final song, All of You, I believe it's called. And so at the end of the song, what they do is they make a doorknob for Mirabel, right? And when she opens the door, she doesn't actually have an indication that the power's going to come back. At least I never got that perception of the whole situation. But it's there that she touches the doorknob and then the whole door lights up and suddenly everybody's powers come back and the house comes back to life. And she says, Hola, casita. And everything is all great. And like I said before, while they were building, they didn't know that their powers were going to come back. They didn't know they were going to have that access to that back again. So that's really like a powerful metaphor for everything is it's okay not to be okay, you know. I like to think of that. And another powerful metaphor for healing takes time, because while they're rebuilding casita, they don't have an indication, as I've said, that they're going to get the casita that they knew back together, but now they're building together in a healthy way, and so they can reap those rewards again of the casita. They can have the joy back of the gifts because they've healed and they are doing things in a healthy way. And I thought this was so crazy that the analogies between the two are so very similar, yet the subject matters, they're actually vastly different from each other. The cultures are vastly different, but they share so much in common because grief is universal. And let me tell you, there's one thing that is in common for me for both movies. I cried my ass off for both of the movies. Well, Wandavision is actually a series, but I really cried myself nuts because it was so beautiful and so absolutely well done. And so, like, kudos to Disney. You guys are actually putting out so many things that are actually worthwhile to watch and just not the same repeated story over and over again, and things that people can actually connect with. So I really think that's wonderful. Okie dokie. So our scripture of the day is from Isaiah 2 verse 4-6, which says, "The Lord will mediate between nations and will settle international disputes. They will hammer their swords into plowshares and their spears onto pruning hooks. Nation will no longer fight against nation, nor train for war anymore. Come, descendants of Jacob, let us walk in the light of the Lord. For the Lord has rejected his people, the descendants of Jacob, because they filled their land with practices from the east and with sorcerers as the Philistines do. They have made alliances with pagans." Okie dokie. Yeah, some very dark scriptures of the day we've been having. But I really just think that what God is trying to say is, don't forget me, y'all. Don't forget me. Don't forget I'm there. Don't forget to spend time with me or make time for me and make time for things that are important. And yeah, that's what I think God is saying. Well, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. It was mind-boggling to think about Encanto and Wandavision as being on the same plane or having these kind of similarities. And I would love to know what you think. Sorry about that. And yeah, links are in the description if you need anything. And I just hope that you have a wonderful day further because you absolutely deserve it. Cheers!